Marty, if my calculations are correct, the current time is 10 o'clock p.m. on June 2nd, 2015. That means we're recording an episode of the Masonic Roundtable, a weekly hangout where Masons from around the world get together to talk about Masonic news and opinions in a friendly and social manner. The thoughts and opinions expressed here are solely the opinions of the participants and do not represent any Grand Lodge statements or positions. Make sure you keep your conversations open for the public and on the level. To interact with us, send questions and comments to our Twitter page at Mason Roundtable or on the Facebook event page. As usual, my name is John Ruark, and I am a past master of the Patriot Lodge number 1957 in Fairfax, Virginia. I'll hand it off to Robert Johnson for introductions.
Hey guys, Robert Johnson here, Worshipful Master of Waukegan Lodge number 78 for this year, and host of Whence Came You, Masonic Podcast. Thanks, John.
Thank you. Nick Johnson.
Biff Tannen here. McFly! Anybody in there, McFly? Nick Johnson, past master, Corinthian Lodge, number 67, in Big Time Farmington.
Excellent, excellent. Jason Richards.
Doc! I know, you sent me back to get the book from Biff, but we're back. Back to being the junior warden of Acacia Lodge number 16 in good old Clifton, Virginia.
Excellent, excellent.
We're going to get sued tonight.
Right, infringement. And last but not least, Juan Sepulveda.
Good evening, everybody. Juan Sepulveda from the future. Full color. Technicolor.
That's why he's in color.
Technicolor. From Orange Blossom Lodge number 80 in Kissimmee, Florida, and the host of the Winding Stairs Freemasonry Radio.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Juan. All right, moving right into Masonic news for this era. We have, hot off the press, well, sort of, kind of, we missed it last week, which was an update to a big release from the Director of National Intelligence, which is that they have
Bin Laden
declassified some of the information they found on Bin Laden's bookshelf.
And those were the books that they found in his compound in Abbottabad.
So why do we care? What does it have to do with Masonry? Well, if you scroll through it, there are some other documents, some manuals, some computer manuals. However, one or two books kind of really stood out to me. The most blatant one of those was The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P.
Hall.
And so, for those who don't know, Manly P. Hall was a very esoteric writer back in the early 20s and actually had given a lot of consideration to the craft. Robert, I know you've read quite a few of his things. You want to add to his contribution to Masonry as a whole? And was he a Mason?
Yeah, well,
It's complicated.
Was a character. You know, he wrote a lot of stuff before he was ever a Mason. One of his famous quotes is, there are many men who were born of women and have never taken the degrees and are Masons, and conversely, there are many men who have taken the degrees and will never be Masons. And I'm paraphrasing, so I know there's some guy out there who's going to yell at me. Maybe Gerald Brown. But yeah, very esoteric writer. Ideas, you know, a lot of his ideas never, they weren't, I wouldn't call them original, because they had been out for a long time, but he's the person who brought a lot of these ideas into the mainstream way of thinking. So it's really interesting that somebody like that had those books.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the other one, John?
And the other one there is Bloodlines of the Illuminati by Fritz Springmeier.
Oh,
Another good conspiracy book. So what do these things have in common? What do they have to do with Bin Laden? Obviously, he or someone on his team was well read in the at least the westernization of philosophic ideas, how it translated into interpretations of Islam. You know, many of those other books too are just a little bit kind of off. There's 9/11 conspiracy books on the bookshelf, so you can kind of judge a man by the books he reads, right? So,
and my guess is he had those books just to get a good laugh.
Let's hope so, right?
I honestly, when I saw that list, I was like, "Is this Jesse Ventura's reading list?"
That's hilarious. But I've got my copy.
Nick,
This
he's gonna come after you now, and he's gonna sue you even after you're dead.
I know, and he's in the Minnesota colony of Baja California, so we should be okay.
Oh,
I don't know if he's coming back.
he's disconnected from the grid.
I'll hear him though.
Except-
Where is that guy? I'm gonna get him, McMahon.
I'm Jesse Ventura,
I'm the governor of Minnesota.
Minnesota.
And I have a TV show.
Anyway, so if you haven't read it, it's actually a good read. It's a heavy read. It's Pike-ish. It's like Pike Jr. He covers a lot in this, and I got this paperback on Amazon for a couple bucks. It wasn't a lot. But if you're,
It's 10% of the length with about 75% of the commas.
nice. If you also are interested, it is available for free on the internet somewhere.
It's public domain, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, it's Life of Author plus 75.
Alrighty. Any other discussions on Bin Laden's educational material? Hearing none. Moving into our next topic, which is something that came out right before we went live last week. A new TV show is trying to raise money on Indiegogo. Link will be in the show notes for the Masons TV series. This is a TV show put on by a Mason for Masons, and their goal is to reach $150,000 to provide funding to get started, and I think they want a little bit more to actually reach one of their objectives. But what do you know about this, guys?
Well,
Robert knows a lot.
I know a lot. Yeah, only because he's right in my neighborhood. We belong to the same valley. It's Michael Toth. He's created several video, kind of Masonic video things in the past. In fact, I think he did pretty much one of the the first real modern kind of exposés on Masonry in the 90s, I want to say. And it's on the web. You can find it in the show links there. They had real actors. It was like the first real thing that came out that somebody spent time, money, and did a good job on. He's subsequently done quite a few things. He's a good guy. He's, like I said, he's out of the Valley of Chicago. He's a past master at Oriental Lodge out of Chicago. And, the series is supposed to be along the production value of something like Breaking Bad or Game of Thrones. Like, they're going to do era by era with kind of cutaways and things like that into different time eras. To be in all honesty, I mean, if you think about that, you want to watch it. I would like.
Is it going to be like Game of Thrones where everybody gets murdered, like every single episode?
They're going to follow the Sinclair family, I think he said, and interestingly enough, I'll be meeting with Mike this Thursday night at the Valley of Chicago. So if he's cool, I'll get a little interview or something for us. So
yeah, that'd be cool. All right, good luck with that.
We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think the intent there is to, instead of having the whole twisted words of Chris Hodap or anything on his History Channel specials or Smithsonian Channel specials, you get a Mason to create a TV show, 33 episodes long, on purpose, to put Masons in a good light, tell the good story, and make it entertaining. So that's a good idea.
The goal overall is to cast, not to cast a good light on Masonry, because to be honest with you, we have the good light, right? It's a show for brothers by brothers. We're gonna get entertained and we're gonna be like, yeah, we're a part of that. It has a real shot at reinvigorating the craft, I think. And if it brings profane into the world of Masonry, then so be it. I wholeheartedly would welcome that.
If it's like the Masonic Breaking Bad, I'm kind of imagining like Sinclair in his underwear, at the very beginning, and I'm gonna sit there and be like, I'm in. I'm totally down for this.
This is coming from the guy who likes Daredevil on Netflix.
Oh yeah.
Dude, Daredevil on Netflix is amazing.
I love it.
Oh.
I can just see it now. He bursts into the lodge room and he's like, "Oh man, we're gonna open lodge now. B word."
Can we go one episode without talking about comic books? Please.
I don't know how.
Oh,
My hope is that, if the production value is high, it might be a little more accurate than Jeremy Renner's Knights Templars thing on the History Channel.
I think they're going to get this done. They'll get it funded, and I think we'll see it. It looks like it's going to go out in. I think the goal is to have it on television by 2017. So I think we'll see it.
awesome. Well, good luck for them. Let's move into MMQOT, the Masonic Monday question on Tuesday.
Oh my gosh, guys. Well, and I'm sure all the people that actually get the email saw that actually the question came out on Tuesday. So there you go. This is a Masonic Tuesday question on Tuesday. What? So anyway, we'll hit it with the answer from last week, and I'll call out the names. There's quite a few of them. You guys did awesome this last week. So Justin Miller, Ryan Gardner, Greg Guffey, Will Fowler, Christian Dubbs, Lou Bedford, Alex Coleman, Jonathan Primo, Willem Kosin, Richard Zarth, Steve Harrison, Christopher Croto, Jeff Brockett, and Simon Dick, and Chris Potts. You all got the correct answer, which was General John A. Logan, as Grand Commander of the Grand Army of the Republic, an organization of Union veterans, issued General Order Number 11 for a day of decoration, which later evolved into our modern Memorial Day. And here we go, special hat tip to Steve Harrison, who also was kind enough to send his Masonic affiliations as well, which were Mitchell Lodge number 85 of Pinckneyville, Illinois, and Benton Lodge number 64 of Benton, Illinois. So congratulations, guys. You did awesome. All right, so here we go. We're going to hit it with the question. You all excited? I can feel it. You're sending the vibes to me. So here we go. Masonic Monday question for the week of June 1st, 2015. This famous Mason was influential in a number of early Masonic bodies, not the least of which the newly formed Mother Council of the World, of which he served as Sovereign Grand Commander. He was a proud ancient York Mason and even authored the first Amen Rezan for his jurisdiction. A healer of schisms, including the one between the ancients and the moderns of his jurisdiction, his passion to heal separations within the craft ultimately led to his disenfranchisement and subsequent vacation of all positions of Masonic authority. Who was this famous Freemason? And when you have the answer, send to masonicmonday@gmail.com. Don't forget your lodge name, lodge number, and the hashtag Nick is super cool. Back to you, John.
Remember, if you forget the hashtag, you don't get credit.
Sadly, no. Just tears.
No, keep up the good work, guys. This is really cool to see a lot of participation. And Nick, as usual, you do a wonderful job in coming up with some real head scratchers. So
Yeah,
Thank
tell
you.
me about it. I sometimes get confused.
sometimes I don't even know the answer to them.
I just wait for you guys to give it to me. So, wait, I didn't say that.
Wait. Alrighty. Show's topic this week, inspired by Nick Johnson, is what is your favorite era of Masonic history? So, Nick, tell us what you were thinking when you came up with this idea.
You know, it was a Reddit post, and you know, I'm obsessed with Reddit because
Reddit, what's that?
Reddit, well, reddit.com/r/Freemasonry is the hottest, coolest place you can go online to learn about Masonry, hang out with some cool dudes, and get into slight arguments that aren't as bad as the ones on Facebook. I know. Amazing.
Reddit's a backdoor of the internet, right?
It's a back door, a side door, but I don't know about a front door.
Or a front page.
So what did you read there?
Anyway, so there was a really excellent question about what would be your ideal era in which to be a Mason, and it was a really interesting question, and I can put it in the show notes too. I don't know if you can still work on actually posting to it as well and get involved that way, but the idea was you would pick your ideal time in Masonic history with which you would have been a member. A lot of guys would say the modern era, I like it just the way it is. Some people would choose, other points in history. So I kind of threw this topic out there and said, I'd love to know what everybody thinks.
Okay. A couple ground rules. One question came up. Are we talking speculative, like all the way back to Egypt, or are we talking about at least documented 1717 on? What would you think? Or are there any rules?
I don't know if there are rules, because let's be honest, the Masonic history that we have is it's surrounded with ether, and so it's hard to really grasp. So.
Yeah. Where we're going, we don't need roads. Got it.
Nice.
All right. So let's see. I will point out at random Juan Sepulveda to kick us off and tell us your favorite Masonic era you would like to have lived in and why.
My answer is not the era in which I would have lived. Is the era I wish I could travel in time to witness.
Okay.
Because I really enjoy life as it is right now. I love the comforts that I can enjoy, and all that good stuff. The access to so many things. But the era that I am interested about Freemasonry currently is the late 18th century. So I imagine myself being born sometime around 1750 or so that I could have been a mature man being around 1776, where the American Revolution, and also have the opportunity to go to my side of town, go down to the Caribbean. There was a lot of very interesting stuff happening around that time, related to Masonry, related to the progress of civilization, not civilization, but the progress of modernization of sorts. So I have been reading a lot about what happened in the Caribbean around that time. And in sometime in the 17-somethings, I'm talking about the Haiti, it's described as the Negro Revolution, where the slaves outnumbered the whites and outpowered them, and it's the only successful slave revolution in history. So the white folks, including a lot of Masons, had to scatter throughout, going to Puerto Rico, going to Cuba, and some heading up to the States. This is a very fascinating time, because here I would have been able to see the true commitment, where if you were a Freemason and known, you were automatically a martyr, in some areas. So that's the time that I would have liked to see, and that makes it clear why I wouldn't want to live in that time, but witness it from the DeLorean.
Very cool. All right. Let's see. I'm sure we'll have more interplay between them once we see some commonalities, but let's skip ahead to Jason. Your thoughts?
So, this is completely and utterly unoriginal. Not unlike anything I've said on this show for the past 68 episodes. No, I've been thinking a whole lot about this, and there's so many periods of rich history that we know about as regards Freemasonry, from the colonial tavern beginnings to the intricacies of the anti-Masonic periods in American history to the initial spread of Freemasonry through Europe and the warrant lodges during that operated during the American Revolution. But if I could go back to any period in Masonic history, and I knew French, I'd have to go back to the Enlightenment, where right in the thick of it all, because you had Masonry just beginning to start and spread across Europe, but then you also had the tremendous scientific advancements and advancements in political thought that we talked about several episodes ago. That would just be incredible, not just for the fraternal aspect to see how the fraternity and the Enlightenment fed off of each other, but just the time period itself. It's just a very, very exciting time period, I would think, to have been alive. I would have wanted to step back into the DeLorean right prior to the French Revolution, because I probably would have been guillotined with my newfangled technology. But the Enlightenment, I think, is just such a rich period of Masonic history that I think it'd be an amazing just to sit there and be a fly on the wall for it.
If you knew French.
If I knew French, which I don't. C'est la vie. That's
Alrighty. All right, Robert Johnson. What are your thoughts?
Oh man, guys, you're gonna hate me because I really can't make up my mind as a couple, but I will give you the best answer I can, which is just I love the Victorian era, specifically here in America, and I also, the Victorian era is really neat. I love it, but in addition to that, I don't know. Some people argue that it kind of creeps into the early 1900s or whatever. But 1900 would be, if I was going to pick a year, I think 1900 would be the year. To be a full-blown Master Mason in my 20s, maybe 30s. Heck, I can't. Beggars can't be choosers, man. Put me there when I'm 50. I don't care. But I think it would just be really neat. I had a lot of. You had guys like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Masons, Milton A. Pottinger, one of my favorite authors, Oscar Wilde, although he died in 1900, so I don't know if that really counts. You had Harry Houdini, Jules Verne died a few years before 1900, and just before that, you had all these guys that were kind of gearing up to this. What I'm kind of getting at is like this real mystical kind of early spiritual period within America's history. So you had these esoterists that were kind of building up. You had guys like, Aleister Crowley, not a big fan myself, but you guys, Albert Pike and Albert Mackey, those guys, those guys were the mentors of some of the guys that were Masons in 1900s. So you had a lot of this stuff going on, and I just find the time absolutely fascinating. I love everything about it. I love the clothes. I love the astuteness. I love, I think generally, and I don't want people to say, oh, you're into elitist Masonry, because that's not it at all, but I just love the tone of Masonry and the way it seems to be portrayed in reading papers from that time period and reading books. It's just a fantastic time, I think, in United States history as well as Masonic history. And I guess coming in third would be really interesting, I think, to be a Mason, maybe out in the early Wild West. But I'll save that for another time.
Very cool. All right, Nick Johnson.
Ooh, I'm so excited. I guess I'll pretty much just respond with what I had responded with on Reddit and say that the period of time in which I would love to have been a Mason without the whole, medical systems not being up to snuff. Outside of that, I would totally go for the period between when it just became a speculative craft, when it was operative speculative all at the same time, but before Grand Lodges became in existence.
Ooh.
The reason why?
Nick hates Grand Lodge.
Fight the man, fight the power.
The man. But no, seriously, if you read the exposés from that time, it was drinking and feasting and having fun. It was all about fraternity. There wasn't a lot of obsession with petty rules and who's a Mason, what's a Mason, you're a Mason, not you, but you are, but you aren't, right? And it was all about. I'm sure they had their problems, just like everything. But seriously,
They had to read the minutes too.
Yeah. Well, except minutes when you're drinking are not as bad. I only can assume. But for me, it would be perfect because if you ever read that early period of history, there was a book that I was reading about Masonry in that period of time where it was a book. I'm trying to remember what it was called that describes the union that happened in 1813 between the ancients and the moderns, and reading those first chapters of this time period before 1717, where it was just kind of easygoing. It was essentially a pub craft, right? Where you'd just go out to the pub, you'd hang out with your friends, you'd chat a little bit about this, you'd do a little degree work, you'd feast, you'd eat, you'd have fun, and when the day was done, you were a Mason, and it was all fraternal, and that just sounds amazing to me because I sometimes think that we trap ourselves within these, well, I'll say petty rules, and this is coming from grand whatever. Sometimes we get trapped in these petty rules of just humorousness, where it's like you're sitting there going, oh, because I just posted a Reddit post about that where they're talking about which medals you can wear and which body and at what time and in which order, and in certain Grand Lodges that's a big deal, is which medal you're wearing at which time and for what purpose. And I sit there sometimes and go, do we need all these rules? Can't we just, have fun? I don't know. Just chill out, have fun. And so that would be period number one that I'd love to live in. Period number two, the period in which all the crazy Templar stuff was being created from Germany and then being transferred over to France, because the bubbling of all these different crazy ideas being put into different degree systems. You had strict observance that they were mashing these incredible ideas into. And we're the fortunate successors to all that effort. But I would have loved to have been in the quarries, developing all those different degrees and building them and grabbing different parts and understanding what's happening within them. I mean, that would have been incredible, just to have been there at the creation of these degree systems. So.
Awesome. So far we have a good variety here until now, which is Juan stole my idea. No. In fact, to not create a paradox where we're both there at the same time, my DeLorean would travel up on the East Coast of the States. And one thing that's fascinated me in some of my reading, as I was preparing some work for my lodge as lodge education officer, I did a little bit of research on the foundation of the Grand Lodge of Virginia. And in doing so, had to decompose what the colonies were like, colonial masonry. And what was fascinating and builds off of what we talked about during the New Orleans Masonry with Brother Paul in one of our earlier episodes, colonial masonry was a hot mess, meaning there were, in a very short time frame, from basically a foundation of the premier Grand Lodge of England in 1717 through the Revolution in the 1770s, a hodgepodge of Grand Lodges coming to the colonies in the same states, setting up different jurisdictions, setting up lodges inside of other states, even though they're the premier Grand Lodge for that state. It was just whoever wanted to charter a lodge could. the influence was Irish, Jamaican, Scottish, and English. So it was truly a melting pot of that time for Masonry as well. So if I had the capacity to travel, traveling isn't as easy as hopping in your car and hopping down Interstate 95 back then. But if you did have that luxury, and you could travel between at least the colonies that were close together, you would see such a variety of Masonry, still in its infancy, right? But that may be influenced by different Grand Lodges, different countries. You would certainly get a variety there in its infancy. George Washington was initiated in like the 1750s, right? Doing some research in a good book that I borrowed from Jason about 100 years ago, the History of
That's
Freemasonry.
where it went.
Right here. I'll bring it tomorrow, I promise. And
Yeah,
History
right.
of Freemasonry, yeah, you're right, and Concordant Orders. They talk about the history of colonial America, and in Virginia specifically, it was around the 1740s where the first lodge was officially chartered. Of course, as you know, back in that time frame, it was much more looser with the rules. People that just wanted to form lodge could just go to lodge and create a lodge without a lot of accountability. But again, that added to that. Hey, I'm a Mason, and I'm going to travel over here and do that without a lot of restrictions. So that would have been a very interesting time if I were able to travel around and see the variety of influences, and then, of course, compare it to how it's evolved to today. So that's maybe if I had the time, I'd go down to Haiti, but otherwise, I'd stay it safe and fly back to 2015.
So
You probably would want to go to Puerto Rico at that point.
Robert, you were going to say something?
yeah, so let me just share this. Some of you guys who are in the Scottish Rite Research Society maybe have this already.
I want it.
Yeah.
Ooh, Jamaican me crazy.
So that is Freemasonry's Royal Secret, the Jamaican Franken manuscript of the high degrees.
Yeah.
All the Piapas.
So Art de Hoyos just finished it up, I guess, and I guess he's shipping them out. So looking forward to reading that one for sure.
Awesome.
I have an update on the date that I was missing. 1791. That's when the Haitian Revolution was happening. And later I'll tell my Puerto Rican brothers a little bit more about what happened in Puerto Rico and in Cuba as a result of the news of the revolution in Haiti. Things got really, really difficult for the slaves and for mixed people, because they wanted to completely squash any possibility of a slave revolution in any of the other islands. That's why, that's another subject. It's super cool, for those who care about that kind of stuff. But the thing, John, you will be covering the East Coast and the different colonies, and with my time traveling, I will be spending some time speaking with the people that end up in Louisiana. You have a lot of the French people from Haiti moving to Louisiana. So the hodgepodge was not just different jurisdictions, but different languages. And a lot of things get mixed up in translation, so you probably see some variations there too.
Mm-hmm. All right, Jason, what do they say according to the Pony Express that we've been getting?
So according to the Pony Express, we just received a telegraph from. Does the Pony Express carry telegraphs?
Sure.
So what happened was the brothers sent a telegraph to the telegraph operator, who had to put it on the back of a Pony Express rider, who then conveyed it to my humble abode, and it's from Brother Entered Apprentice, I believe, Simon Dick, who to whom Nick totally owes a beer. I think I would have to go with the 1960s. My great-grandfather was a Mason here in New York City in the 60s. I'd love to be able to talk with him and find out what drew him into Masonry when none of my other relatives were interested in it. And it's pretty neat.
That's awesome. That's nice.
Well, you've heard. I listened to another podcast with a guy named Tom Mischke, and he actually had a scientist. Interestingly enough, discussing that. There's a book out there that this theoretical physicist wrote. I'm trying to remember who he was or whatever, but he wrote a book that was describing his efforts to create a time machine to see his past father, who had died when he was very young. And it's fascinating because this guy, his dad died at 12, and he's been, ever since then he's been focused on theoretical physics and understanding those things to one day maybe find a way to go back and meet his father. And I completely agree, because my own grandfather passed away when I was pretty young, probably 12, something like that. But he was a Shriner, and he always was in all this stuff. I didn't even know this, and I would have loved to have been able to sit in lodge with him, because it was one of the best honors that I ever had, that I got to sit with my dad's father, my paternal grandfather, and it was really a touching experience to be able to sit with them, both my dad and also my grandpa, and sit in the lodge. And I would love to be able to go back to that time in the 1970s, 1980s, and sit with my maternal grandfather. It would have been a pretty interesting discussion to understand why he decided to join Freemasonry. So I totally get that.
Very touching for those of you who have had the lineage that I unfortunately missed out on. All right, I think it's that time to start wrapping up. Let's kick things off with Robert Johnson to start bringing us home with final thoughts and shameless plugs.
Well,
You're back in the future.
You're back.
Yeah. So, I guess all throughout history, we've got Masonry that just, it sticks out. I think any one of us would have taken the way we described with the passion, especially Brother Juan, and to kind of think, yeah, I would have taken Juan's journey too. I mean, at any point in history, Masonry seems to have really interesting times. And of course, we don't think of today as interesting because we're here, we're living it. People always think about the good old days, and they don't realize that the good old days, you're living them right now, and you will refer to today as the good old days at some point. And I think while we revel in some of these stories of the past, we kind of romanticize about things. If we're Masons today, we can take those same practices and get excited about it today, reinvigorate some things. If you want to, you could nerd out and have a lodge cosplay.
Nice.
Lodge cosplay. But
Toga.
That's kind of funny that you mentioned that. There actually are lodges that do that. They'll dress up in colonial garb.
Yeah.
And do degrees. So yeah, we've got that going on right now.
Yeah, and it's really just an interesting whole concept. I mean, to think that Masonry's been around so long that you can pick an era at any time and just go. But so thanks for watching, and I really appreciate everybody out there who follows us on the social media. And I just want to say thanks again to Brother Stephen L. Harrison, and also you got to buy his new book. It's on pre-sale, 99 cents Kindle. It's Freemasons at Oak Island. It's about 60 pages. It's based on some heavy research he did that just he can't always provide at a presentation. So he has the book, and it's really cool. Pre-order it, and if you guys like Masonic podcasts, check out Whence Came You, Sunday nights, 9:30. This week we'll have Brother Harrison on doing his Masonic Minute. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Keep up the good work with the podcast, Robert. I like the new format, where it's going.
Thank you.
Yeah, me too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Nick Johnson. Bring us
Uh-oh.
back.
Oh no! Oh no! I'm being pulled through the portal. There we go. Man, that really hurt. We should really not do that again. But yeah, seriously, it's a really good point that Robert makes. I do fantasize about these periods of time. I mean, if you read about what happened with, if you read about what was happening with, like, say, the rite of strict observance, it was really kind of humorous that Baron Hund, who was pretty much the purveyor of that whole thing, he himself may have duped himself into believing that there were actually these people behind the scenes that were actually devising these rituals and things like that. So he may himself have duped himself into believing this stuff. So it's one of those that we've been creating these fantasy worlds within our LARPing, I mean Masonic journeys for many years, and so I mean, it's one of those that we just kind of have to accept that there's some fantasy mixed in with the reality. But yeah, I would love to just see what it was like and those first tavern experiences within Masonry. It would have been, I don't know. I read these old rituals, these old exposés, and it's just amazing. The ritual work is done. They grab the guy by the shoulder, they lead him to a bench, they sit him down and say, "Good job, buddy." Whack on the back. Here's a tankard and a leg of lamb. How are you doing, bud? Wasn't that awesome? I mean, I'm sitting there going, that is what? So I don't know. It just sounds really cool. So. Oh, millennialfreemason.com. There you go.
Thank you for that shameless plug. But we know who you are. All right, next to bring back to the future is Juan Sepulveda.
He's already gotten there.
Wow.
Oh, had I gotten?
Yeah.
I'm back. This was a fun. It's always fun for me. I mean, you always get to look at different things, look at Masonry from different perspectives. We're relatively young, and we have a long Masonic trek ahead of us. There's a lot of information out there. There are a lot of stories. For the brothers that are new to the fraternity, there's no rush. I mean, just take it easy. Research a little bit of history of Freemasonry. See if there's anything that apply to your country of origin, like I have been doing. It's very interesting to see which leaders of your country of origin were Masons and how they exemplified some of the lessons that we try to emulate today in our order. But it's a fun journey. If you, instead of making it a competition, who can get the most degrees or who can, you want to be the one that who best can work, but it's not a competition. Just work hard on finding more about the fraternity, learning about it, enjoying every little bit of it, and this was a lot of fun. I'm gonna be doing some more reading about this. I don't know if I'll put it in an episode or not. If you're interested in hearing more about it, let me know. You can put it in the comment sections of the YouTube channel or Facebook, or you can go to thewindingstairs.com and send me a message that way. I have a few episodes coming up, and if you see behind me, that's one of the handcrafted aprons that I sell through freemasonryart.com. If you use promo code TMR, you see Jason also has it in the background. Make sure to use the promo code TMR, and you'll be directly supporting the show. So thank you again for listening, and back to you.
All right. Yes, that leaves Jason Richards as the next one to bring himself back from the past to the future.
Okay, well, gotta get this thing up to 88 miles an hour. So
Whoa!
it's gonna be
A little rocky road.
bringing it back. Okay.
Train tracks are kind of bumpy.
Yeah, well, I had to watch out for the burst of speed. But I'm back.
There's an innuendo going on.
So coming back from the future gives you a little bit of gas pains, as that kind of.
Yes. Anyway, so I'm going to steal a little bit of John's thunder, I think, because one of the things that we didn't talk about with Masonic time travel is going back to the future. And I think we've got the real potential for the best era of Masonic history to be in front of us. The idea that communication with brethren around the world and the ability to travel even virtually is just getting started. And there's so much that we can learn. There's such an emphasis on traveling. And the fact of the matter is, it's easier to travel now to greater distances, to greater cultures, to greater Masonic jurisdictions than there ever has been before in the entire world and in the entire history of Masonry. So it presents us with a very unique opportunity to learn from each other and figure out, are there better ways of doing things? I'm not talking about improving upon the ritual per se. Innovation! Yes. What's a...
Libation.
Innovative libations. Yes. But, it's just in an era where you can have a brother do a presentation via Skype from literally halfway around the world, like 16 hours ahead. I mean, that's just amazing, and there's amazing untapped potential with technology, and we need to embrace technology and embrace the unknown instead of meeting it with skepticism, some I don't knows, and emphasis on reading the lodge minutes and making Masonic meetings so dull that nobody wants to come back. So thanks for watching, guys. Really appreciate you tuning in. Week after week, we're going to have a really fun show next week. We've got a special guest we're bringing back, and we're going to wind him up and just let him go like he did the last time, because he's amazing. He's going to make your heads explode, and it's going to be awesome. So you have to watch it next week, definitely, because it's going to be an amazing show. So keep sending us topic ideas. We love to hear from you. Let us know what you like about the show. Let us know what we can do to improve it. Buy a pin. I promise at some point in time I will get the processing time down a little bit better than it is now. I have not quite reached the Robert Johnson level of efficiency in getting pin orders out.
Family enough.
Because I'm not what?
I said you can't get to my level unless you start negating your family a lot more.
That's true. That's it. I am done giving care and compassion to my cats.
What happens?
I'm just going to have to make my wife do everything she does anyway.
Every time I see my kids, they see me so less, so sporadically. Every time they say my name, it always ends in a question mark. It's Dad?
Daddy?
Dad? Even when they're giving me a hug. Dad? Yeah, it's me, buddy.
I forgot what you looked like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm shaving now.
So thanks so much for watching. We love you guys very much in a non-creepy way, and we appreciate you all hanging in with us week in, week out. And we've got a good lineup the next couple weeks. So you guys will want to be here at least for the next couple weeks, because it'll be fun.
Awesome. All right. So would you say you're bringing next week's guest back to the future?
Oh. I would say we're bringing sexy back.
All right. Well, I'm going to go strap in here with Doc Brown and see if we can bring this baby back to the... Wait for it. There we go. Now we're back.
You didn't even take him out of the box, man.
Dude, I never take anything out of the box. I'm like a comic book nerd.
Meant in box.
MIB.
Yes.
Alrighty. So, Jason did take a lot of my thunder, but I'll add to it. For me, being a techie guy, helping start up this video cast based off of the good work that the podcasters and bloggers have started before me, I got to look forward. You know, my true favorite era of Masonry is where we're going. I see all the opportunities that we have ahead of us. We live not only with the traveling abilities that Jason referred to, but the information age, the information abilities that we have here. Rare books are scanned for free by Google, right? We have the ability to sit in lodge with people around the world, as in our Castle Island episode. So there's no excuse for Masonry to just take full charge, extol the virtues of gentlemen and Masons, and carry that into the digital age. And so for that, I'm looking very forward to the near future and the far future of what Masonry holds. There's you know, a lot of membership issues we have to deal with in kind of getting our numbers back. But if we truly stick to quality, we will carry that forward. So I'm looking forward to that. Jason covered everything else. So thanks for watching, and keep searching for more light. Have a good night.